I know why you're here. You've been grinding, hustling, doing everything the experts tell you to do, but somehow you're still stuck in the same place while watching others seem to effortlessly climb past you. Trust me, I've been exactly where you are right now, frustrated, confused, wondering what secret sauce these successful people have that I'm missing. But here's what I discovered after years of spinning my wheels. The most successful people aren't necessarily the hardest workers. They're the smartest workers. If you're tired of working twice as hard for half the results, make sure to hit that subscribe button because today I'm going to show you a completely different approach that changed everything for me. We've all heard it a million times. Success is 99% discipline. Just push through the pain, do what you hate until you love it. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you discipline is worthless. It's not. But here's the problem with making discipline your only strategy. You're essentially declaring war on your own brain. Our minds evolved over thousands of years to seek maximum reward with minimum effort. That's not laziness. That's survival. When you force yourself to do things that go completely against your natural wiring, you're fighting an uphill battle every single day. It's like trying to swim upstream in a river. I learned this the hard way when I jumped into a sales role that looked perfect on paper. Great money, flexible schedule, work from anywhere. What's not to love, right? Except there was one tiny problem I completely overlooked. I had to actually talk to strangers on the phone all day. Now, some people light up at the thought of cold calling. They get energized by the challenge, the competition, the thrill of turning a no into a yes. But me? Just thinking about picking up that phone made my heart race in all the wrong ways. I convinced myself it was just a matter of discipline. Push through the discomfort, I told myself. Everyone feels this way at first. But weeks turn into months, and while my colleagues were crushing their quotas and genuinely enjoying themselves, I was barely scraping by and dreading every workday. That's when it hit me. I wasn't failing because I lacked discipline. I was failing because I was trying to succeed in an arena that didn't match who I am. Here's what nobody talks about. Every single person has built-in advantages that most people never identify or leverage. These aren't necessarily the obvious talents like singing or playing sports. I'm talking about the way your mind naturally works, how you approach problems, what energizes you versus what drains you. Maybe you're naturally curious. That's rocket fuel for research, investigation, learning new skills, or staying ahead of trends. Maybe you're a natural skeptic. In the right role, that negative trait becomes invaluable for quality control, risk assessment, or fraud detection. Maybe you're obsessively detail-oriented. While others see this as being too picky, the right opportunity turns this into a superpower for project management, editing, or system optimization. The magic happens when you stop trying to fix your weaknesses and start building your entire approach around your natural strengths. When I finally left that sales job and moved into analytical work, something that actually played to my strengths, everything changed. Instead of dreading work, I found myself losing track of time because I genuinely enjoyed what I was doing. Instead of struggling to hit basic targets, I was exceeding expectations without feeling like I was forcing it. Here's where it gets really interesting. When you operate in your zone of natural ability, something incredible happens. You start getting positive feedback. People compliment your work. You begin to build confidence. This makes you want to do more of that activity. But here's the kicker. The more you do something you're naturally good at, the better you become. Not just through practice, but because you're actually enjoying the process. Think about a kid who's naturally drawn to building things with blocks. They get praised for their creations. They build more, they get better. Pretty soon, you can't tell if they're good at building because of natural talent or because they've simply built more structures than other kids their age. The answer is, it doesn't matter. The result is the same. Here's something I wish someone had told me years ago. Most people are completely blind to their own superpowers. I remember talking to my friend Sarah about this concept. She was complaining about how she always ends up being the one organizing everything. Group trips, office parties, family gatherings. It's exhausting, she said. People just dump everything on me. But here's what she couldn't see. While she was organizing that company retreat, 3 different departments started collaborating for the first time in years. When she planned her sister's wedding, she somehow managed to keep 2 divorced parents civil for an entire weekend. What looked like a burden to her was actually a rare gift that most people would pay thousands to learn. The problem is we're often too close to our own abilities to recognize them as anything special. It's like asking a fish to describe water. They can't because they're swimming in it. So how do you identify these hidden strengths? Start paying attention to 3 things. First, what do people constantly ask you for help with? If friends always come to you when they need to vent, you might be naturally gifted at emotional intelligence. If colleagues ping you when they can't figure out why something isn't working, you might have natural troubleshooting abilities. Second, what feels effortless to you but seems to stress everyone else out? Maybe you can spot patterns in data that others miss. Maybe you naturally know how to explain complex ideas simply. Maybe you're the person who can walk into a chaotic situation and somehow restore order. Third, and this one's crucial, what were you drawn to as a kid before anyone told you what you should be doing? That childhood curiosity often points directly to your natural wiring. I spent years ignoring the fact that as a kid, I would take apart radios just to understand how they worked. I thought that was just being weird. Turns out that same analytical curiosity that drove me to disassemble electronics is exactly what makes me good at breaking down complex problems today. The tragedy is that most of us have been conditioned to see our natural inclinations as either irrelevant or problematic. But what if they're actually your biggest competitive advantage?
Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds great in theory, but how do I actually apply this? First, you need to get honest about what actually energizes you versus what drains you. Not what you think should energize you, not what your parents want to energize you, what actually lights you up. Pay attention to activities where time seems to disappear. Notice when people naturally come to you for help or advice. Observe which tasks feel effortless while others struggle with them. Second, get creative about how to monetize these natural strengths. Love analyzing data? Companies are desperate for people who can make sense of their metrics. Naturally good at explaining complex things? Content creation and training are massive industries. Third, and this is crucial, you need to design your life around these strengths, not despite them. Remember how in school you had to take every test, even in subjects you hated? Well, real life isn't school. You get to choose which test to take. If you're naturally introverted, don't force yourself into roles that require constant networking. If you're detail-oriented, don't take jobs that require only big picture thinking. Look, discipline will always matter. Even when you're operating in your zone of natural strength, you'll still need to show up and push through challenges. But here's the difference. When you're working with your natural wiring instead of against it, discipline becomes a tool that amplifies your existing strengths, rather than a constant battle against your nature. It's like the difference between pedaling a bike uphill versus downhill. You still need to pedal, but the effort required is completely different. So here's my challenge for you. Stop trying to become someone you're not and start becoming the best version of who you already are. If this resonated with you and you want more content like this, strategies that actually work with your psychology instead of against it, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. I post new videos every week, helping people build success systems that feel natural instead of forced. What's one natural strength you have that you've been overlooking? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one and often feature the best insights in future videos. Remember, the goal isn't to outwork everyone through sheer force. It's to work so intelligently that what looks like superhuman effort to others feels effortless to you. That's the real secret to sustainable success.